Tim Petrowich of the Daily Republican here with Marion head football coach Kerry Martin. Playoff football pairings night. Coach, maybe a little bit of a surprise, maybe not, but the Decatur MacArthur Generals are coming to Marion next weekend for the first round of the playoffs.
Yeah, when you go 1 through 16, you sometimes get somebody, more likely to get somebody you haven't played before, and that's the case this year. And I understand they're a very good football team, obviously. They made the playoffs last year, and I think they beat Highland last year in the playoffs, so we were a little familiar following them with that, and I understand they got a pretty good offensive team.
By going to the 16-team bracket, we learned earlier today that Cahokia was going to be seated ahead of Marion, and there was a potential there for a second-round game at Cahokia. That's eliminated now. You'd like to see the Comanches in the playoffs now because that would mean you got to the semifinals.
Yeah, it'd be a great situation to be in, having played someone we played pretty tough in a semifinal game. But all in all, you're looking for matchups. You're hoping that you get the film tomorrow on these guys and you find a good matchup. Personnel-wise, speed-wise, size-wise, and of course right now we don't know anything about them other than just some schemes. But certainly that you want to play. You'd like to play somebody different than you played during the regular season. But ultimately, you want to play somebody that you have the best chance to beat. And we won't really know that until we get into the week's scouting report.
MacArthur 6-3 coming into the game next weekend. They were beat last in their last regular season game. I think they played Bloomington and lost in that game. Anything else other than what you've said about the little bit you followed them from last year?
Well, not really. As I said, they played a very good team in Week 9, so that has a lot to do with the fact they didn't win that last game. But as I said, they've put together some playoff runs. I know last 2 years they made the playoffs at least, maybe more than that, and so they're building some tradition there. That they're building on a new tradition there. And I think from what we understand, it's a very athletic school, a lot of good athletes in the building, and they made some noise last year, and they're doing it again this year, which is a sign of a good program.
I understand some of your early reports indicate they're a little similar to you in some things they do.
That's what I understand. I understand the kind of the defensive schemes and the spread system they run on offense, very similar to what we've done the last few years. So, that's a good news, bad news thing. And I think the thing about it is, at least defensive-wise, we're going to be familiar with the spread system, having defended it every day in practice.
The 16-team bracket gives you, as we talked about, a little bit more of a favorable draw. Home in the first round, being the number 4 seed in that 16-team bracket. If everyone plays true to form, you're home for the second round against, I believe it's
one of the Peoria
Richwoods. Yeah, or you go on the road to play a number 12 seed.
Right.
So that's got to play to your favor. The higher seed you get at home, you play. If you were playing on the road, you play against the lower seed.
Well, yeah, on paper it looks good.
Right.
Of course, a lot of things. That's what we have to start with. As I said, we haven't seen any film. Most of these schools are really quite unfamiliar to us. But on paper, we like the way it plays out, at least for right now. And so, it's just a matter of continuing to try to improve as the playoffs move along and prepare our team the best we can to play them, and especially having a home game next weekend is exciting for us.
This is another historic season for Marion football. You've set some school records on the way. Final regular season home game, you had one with a long field goal, but now it's the 5th consecutive year in the playoffs. It ties a school record that was set back in the early and mid 80s. How do you feel now, thinking back to where this program was when you took it over?
Well, yeah, that's going back to talk about some pretty big changes. When we first came here, the first 3 years were a struggle, and some of that was our own fault, and some of it just wasn't. Philosophically, we weren't on the same page with some of our early teams, and we struggled a lot in a lot of areas through off-season training and just the discipline factor and so forth. And I think over time we've brought in kind of some more coaches, and we brought in I think a better training system. I think the offense has made a big difference. The spread system we've gone to, and there's a number of factors that have led to our success. And I think the fact that we've been patient about it, and I think the first 3 years were a struggle, but I think the struggle made us better, and I think it made us better as a coaching staff. And I think the last 5 years we've reaped some benefits from those early 3 years that we really struggled with record-wise and on the scoreboard. The first 2 years I think we were competitive, Petro, and I think the third year I think we took a step back, but then we really reevaluated things, I think, after that point, and I think it made us a better football program.
Now you're in a situation where not only has the varsity excelled and made the playoffs 5 years in a row, but the last couple of years your underclass programs have been very solid as well. So it's in a situation now where every year when people talk about football and we talk about playoff football, the Marion Wildcats have to be mentioned.
Yeah, it's creating a winning attitude and a culture of winning, and I think Now that goes to every coach on my staff, all the way from the freshman staff on up. The junior high programs are now implementing the same offensive system that we run, and I think that's paid dividends for us. And the support from the top down, from the board to the administration to everybody, I mean, our success is due to the input and a sacrifice of a lot of people. And we always tell everybody that everybody's a part of our success, and we couldn't do it just as a coach or just as a coaching staff or just as a few concerned parents. It was everybody working together has helped turn this program around and get it where it's at. It's going to keep it going that direction as long as we keep working together. And the kids have bought into it. And you're right, I think kids come into high school now, they understand the expectations for Marion football are high, and they've been willing to pay the price that it takes in the off season to be a successful football player, and they understand the off-season training needs that we have. And so, you know, we're proud of what we've done so far, but we're not satisfied. We want to continue to get better.
We'll talk about Decatur MacArthur a little bit later on in the week when we get together again, but back to the pairings, any surprises that you've seen, not only maybe in 5A, but across the whole board?
You know, been so busy dealing with our own matchup, I really haven't had a chance to sit and really take a look at all the matchups and all the pairings. I just know that looking at the earlier classes, 1 through 4A and then 5A, I think there were a lot of surprises, and I think those guys that go out there and try to figure this thing out were probably stumped again this year, because it's a very difficult process to figure out what the IHSA is going to do and what they're you know, basing things on. So the main thing I got out of the first 4 pairings and watching ours on TV was just a kind of a surprise, that I think more than anything that there were some matchups we didn't expect.
All right, well, thanks a lot, Coach. We'll talk again later in the week.
Thank you.
Marion head football coach Kerry Martin for the Daily Republican. I'm Tim Petrowich.